Hi there and welcome to our YouTube channel. My name's Bryony and I'm the head of coaching here at Relish, and I'm here to talk to you today about the question, are you in a loveless marriage? 23 red flags. So every relationship goes through ups and downs, but what if a rough patch lasts a bit too long? So here are 23 red flags that you could be in a loveless marriage and what to do about it. So sometimes rough patches can stretch into months, even years. If you feel like you're currently in the middle of a lengthy rough patch and you can't quite see the light at the end of the tunnel, it's a great time to stop and evaluate what you actually want from your marriage. At what point do you take a step back and evaluate where you are through an objective lens? Sometimes it takes more than perspective, and sometimes you do need to look at the red flags. So here are 23 possible signs that this could be an issue. As you're watching this video, be honest with yourself and do a rigorous inventory of your emotions. Although this can be difficult, it's far, far easier than staying in a relationship where you're putting nothing in and getting nothing out. If you feel like you identify with more than one of these, open a dialogue with your partner, look for a couples counsellor, and reach out for some additional support. Number 1, you can't fill the silence. If you begin to realise that during dinner, long car rides, evenings on the sofa, any time spent together, all passes in silence, and neither of you makes the effort to fill it with quality conversations, this could be the sign of a problem. It's unrealistic to expect great, easy flowing dialogues anytime you two spend an hour together, but the complete reverse isn't symbolic of a healthy and happy marriage. Number 2, you're preoccupied with other people's issues. A great replacement for looking directly at our own problems is looking directly at other people's problems. If you're actively seeking out opportunities to tuck into some hot gossip with close friends or family, trying to insert yourself in their drama or their solution, then perhaps you need to take a step back and ask yourself why you're devoting so much of your time to these distractions. Number 3, you have sex less than once a month. Sure, none of us are having the same insanely exciting and toe-curling sex that we did at the beginning of our courtships, but abstaining completely takes your foot off the gas. Sex is a physical expression of the love you pledge to each other in your vows. So if you've put your sex life on the back burner for too long, even if you're still practicing the other forms of love like friendship, listening, laughing, etc., it could be time to reprioritize intimacy. Number 4, you feel antsy. If you're experiencing an itchiness, like just being in your skin is like wearing a too tight wool sweater in 90-degree weather, you might be repressing some emotions. Your subconscious is trying to tell you something that you're not ready to hear or admit to yourself. Feelings of restlessness could be a signal to you that you're ignoring something that should be demanding your attention. Number 5, you're pulling away from friends and family. It's likely you've cancelled more than one dinner with your best friend, simply because you don't want to face them. Even when we're able to excuse away certain doubts in our own minds, it's difficult to keep them from people who love us. They read it all over our face. So track how you behave when you're around your social circle. Are you evading questions, offering up half-true answers, changing topics, or simply steering the conversation away from you at all? If you feel like you're not being entirely forthright with your closest friends, you may be afraid of looking in the mirror and finding out what you already know, that there's a problem that you can no longer ignore. Number 6, everything they do or say gets on your nerves. Part of marriage is getting annoyed by your partner. It's practically the price for entry. But it's another thing entirely when every time they make a noise, ask a question, snore in bed, or load the dishwasher, it feels like your skin is crawling. If you notice enough of these annoyances in a row, say for 2 weeks straight, you may be in danger of entering the red zone. Number 7, one of you has cheated. Although there are many examples of couples who work through infidelity and come out the other side, it's still a big red flag. Why? Because it shows that the bond of trust between the two of you is vulnerable. At one point, whether it was recent or not, your partner has decided to betray your trust. If it has been broken before, logic follows that it could be broken again. And even if you've put it behind you, it's likely at least one of you is still holding on to resentments. Number 8, you're fantasizing about divorce. If you have an elaborate fantasy that involves you sitting next to a ruthless divorce lawyer and slashing your partner's savings, assets, and 401k, you may have a serious case of divorce daydreams. It doesn't even have to be quite so sinister. It could be as simple as thinking obsessively about free time, free evenings, late nights with friends, and so on. If the post-divorce life is starting to look more attractive than mending the rifts between you and your partner, that's a signal that you probably can't afford to ignore. Number 9, you can't remember the last time you had a date night. A dry spell is a month or so where, for a myriad of reasons like lack of babysitter, tight budget, home renovation, packed social calendar, sheer exhaustion to name a few, you and your partner don't get dressed up, make a reservation somewhere overpriced, and enjoy a good old-fashioned date night. However, if you've experienced a succession of dry spells and your date night calendar resembles the Sahara Desert, this has gone beyond what is acceptable and you can no longer look the other way. Number 10, it doesn't feel fun anymore. Relationships are a lot of work, and anyone who's been married for any amount of time can attest. But we work at it because it's fun, because we enjoy each other and the relationship brings light and laughter to our lives. But if the fun has stopped, the laughter has died down, and the light is dimming, then what's the point of all that work? Number 11, only one of you is committed to working on it. If getting your partner to set foot in the couples therapy office feels like pulling teeth, then you're likely feeling pretty alone in your effort to salvage your relationship. Or conversely, if they keep giving you relationship books to read that pile up untouched on your nightstand, they could be feeling the effects of this as well. It's never fun to feel like the balance is way off between you two, and when one person is invested and the other isn't, it's the quickest way to throw off your chances of success. Number 12, you keep having the same fight. If you feel like the fights you and your partner are having are playing on a loop, repeating over and over, then it's a sign of a deeper problem. Some arguments are expected, even healthy, because they can't let the steam off issues that have been building for a while. But if you're unable to resolve a certain issue and it just keeps coming up again and again, it's likely a more fundamental difference between you and might be a signal that you have more than just the fight to work out. Number 13, you aren't fighting anymore. Although having the same fight again and again is a sign of trouble, it's equally unhealthy if you've completely given up arguing altogether. A couple that has stopped fighting has also stopped looking ahead. They aren't thinking about the future, trying to forge one together that meets both their needs. They're simply trying to exist, read survive, in the present. If you and your partner have thrown in the metaphorical towel, you might want to open an honest dialogue about why the arguments between you have ceased. Number 14, you're close to having an emotional affair. Even if you aren't comfortable acting on your feelings and moving into a physical affair, you may feel very attracted to a person or people outside your relationship. You might be leaning on this person for support, divulging lots of intimate details, and deepening the connection you feel with this person. Your partner couldn't accuse you of any inappropriate behaviour, but you know you can't be honest with yourself about how you feel about this person. That's a strong sign you need to seriously reevaluate your commitment. Number 15, you're experiencing contempt. Contempt is the most toxic emotion of Dr. John Gottman's 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. The other 3 are criticism, stonewalling, and defensiveness, which all contribute, he argues, to the demise of a marriage. But if you're feeling contempt towards your partner, you've escalated beyond just rude or mean tactics. You're resorting to things like mocking them, being overly sarcastic, mimicking their actions, or scoffing and rolling your eyes. Once you stoop to these behaviours, it's increasingly difficult to come back from that place and resume a healthy relationship. Number 16, you're both pointing the finger. 80% of couples who end up in couples therapy say their issues are largely their partner's fault, but the only ones that will make it through will be the ones who are able to recognise that they bear some responsibility in their problems too. If you find that you and your partner are both unable to clean up your side of the street and admit that you have room for improvement, then you're both likely facing a rough road ahead. Without acknowledging problems, they cannot be fixed. Number 17, you can't stop criticizing. It's one thing to nag your partner to get a haircut or fold laundry right when the dryer's done, but it's another entirely to attack their sense of self. If you feel like the compulsion to nitpick has become involuntary, this is a signal that you're trying to create distance between yourself and your partner. Putting them down is a short-term strategy. They'll either feel resentment come to a boiling point or turn the tables on you. Neither option is conducive to a resolution. Number 18, you're both defensive about everything. You and your partner know everything about each other, and that includes knowing how to push all the right buttons. So it also gives you unfettered access to all of your dirty secrets, biggest regrets, and deepest insecurities. That keeps both of you on your toes, refuting every accusation fired at you by your partner. This defensiveness will only keep growing until there's a space the size of the Grand Canyon between you. Number 19, you can't focus. If you're forgetting simple things, not able to pay attention at work, or never really feeling fully present, you may be suffering from obsessionitis. When domestic issues grow until they demand all of your attention, it's officially gone beyond the realm of normal issues. So look around. If you're behind on projects at work and your home is littered with stacks of unpaid bills, you may need to take an honest assessment of where you are in your relationship. Number 20, you've stopped making plans. If you and your partner aren't making plans for the future, it's a sign that you've stopped looking ahead. And a marriage without a future isn't a marriage. If you stop getting excited about the future, mapping trips over the next season, not talking about the holidays, you may be actively avoiding talking about the future. Keep an eye on how you and your partner broach topics or events that lie in the future. If they're more than 2 weeks out and you both hedge around the subject, making non-committal chit-chat, then you're looking at a red flag. Number 21, you can't break the narrative. We form narratives around ourselves, such as I'm always late, I'm not a morning person, and we form narratives around our relationships. Nothing between us is easy, we can't stop fighting. Narratives, once formed, take some effort to undo. It's possible, but it takes effort on both sides. However, if you realize that you're unable to reverse a narrative, especially a negative one around your relationship, it is a problematic sign. Number 22, you're fighting in public. We've all been at those dinner parties where spouses shoot passive-aggressive comments at each other from across the dining table, to the point where the other guests practically lose their appetite. You don't want to be those people. No one wants to be those people. But it's a slippery slope from fighting a lot to fighting in public, because anger can blind couples. It can blind them to social niceties, norms, and expectations. And if you think you're in danger of potentially hurling insults at your partner in front of others, you might want to do some soul searching before accepting an invite to a dinner party. And finally, number 23, you feel more like yourself when you're apart. Of all the red flags on the list, this one is perhaps the most detrimental to a happy relationship. When you spend long enough in an unhappy relationship, you might become a person that you don't really recognize. You feel like a bitter, sad, exhausted, frustrated, and unhappy version of yourself. It might get to the point that you don't even recognize yourself when you look in the mirror. And although you try to change while you're in the presence of your partner, it gets to the point where the environment between you is so toxic that you feel unable to break free. The only way you can feel more like you is by getting away from them. That's a sign that you cannot ignore, because your personal happiness is too paramount to your identity. So if you get really honest with yourself and realize that this is speaking to you, you cannot turn the other cheek. If one or more of these red flags felt like they were directed at you, it might be a wise idea to seek help, or at the very least, start an honest conversation with your partner. Although this sounds like a sobering prospect, it's one that you must undergo to find out whether or not there is still hope in your marriage. No one deserves to stay in a loveless relationship, certainly not you, and certainly not your partner. Finding out sooner rather than later is the most decent thing to do. If you find it helpful, bring this list to your partner and ask them to flag the ones that they resonate with as well. Then you can start a more specific conversation around the pain points that you're feeling right now. That's it from me today, and I wish you all the luck with it.